Greetings and welcome to Channel Other Doc. I'm Jim, I use he, him pronouns, and this is the first session of our mini-campaign of Durance. This is a game about the struggle between two competing social structures on a prison colony in deep space, that of the convicts and the authority. We're going to be doing a bunch of world building as part of this first session, and just kind of getting it together. This is going to be a 3-session arc. It's a little bit shorter. It's going to be a little bit shorter than the usual short campaigns that we do on here. But first, let's go ahead and go around and introduce everyone. I'd like each to say who you are and a favorite piece of sci-fi, regardless of whatever the medium it is. And I will start with Alyssa. Hello.
Hello. My name is Alyssa. Origami Shuriken on Twitter. You may recognize me from such hits as Dungeon World.
Yay.
And I think, well, my classic favorite is Return of the Jedi, but I am currently watching The Expanse from the Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm on my second round through, so.
I was surprised it was as good as it is. It was really good. Let us move on to Rock. Hello.
Hey, Jim. So you can usually find me as either TVM Rock or as Rock007. Other than occasionally showing up on your channel and not really doing much, but I'm working on that. I got something on the wings here. So, as far as favorite piece of science fiction goes, I don't know, man. It's a toss-up between Star Trek or Sequest.
Sequest.
Love those.
I remember Sequest. It was such a thing when it was on. That's cool. Very cool. You don't have people pull out Sequest that often these days. That's awesome. And let us move on to a new face for this channel, Antistud. Hello.
Hello, I'm glad to be here. Happy to be playing some games. My favorite piece of science fiction, off the top of my head, Star Trek. Watched it with some friends, and I've enjoyed pretty much all of it.
Good, solid choice. It's always there. I will say that for me, I guess my favorite tends to bounce back and forth between Star Wars and Doctor Who. Depending on what we're considering science fiction at the time. A lot of folks consider neither of those science fiction, and there's definitely an argument for that. But you know, if we go use those rules, then my favorite science fiction defaults to Red Dwarf. So that's pretty much where we go with that. So what are we doing here? Before I get into the meat of what this is. Just as a reminder, like we do with most games on this channel, we're going to be using the X card, the N card, and the O card. If we hit something that's crossing a line for one of the players, any of them can type an X in the Zoom video chat or anywhere else, or make an X symbol, and we'll back up and we'll do something else. If something happens that you're okay having in the game, but you don't want a graphic description of it, type an N in the Zoom chat, and we'll fade to black on it or put it behind a veil. So it'll be there, but we won't go into detail. Finally, if you're in the midst of intense role-playing and you think we might be worried you're really upset out of character, you can put an O in the chat to let us know you're doing okay and that we're good to keep piling on the drama. Something else we can do is put an O with a question mark after it when we say or do something and then think, that might have been a little bit too much. Then everyone else can respond to that and let us know if we're still doing okay. So, let us sink into this and sort of figure out what we are doing. It has been a few months for me, so we're gonna be setting up a planet and its various environs. Let me go into a little bit of as we go. However, let me go ahead and switch over to something slightly more ominous sounding whilst we're doing this. This is Durance. As the basic premise here, I shall briefly read from the tome. About Beyond the Great Stellar Rift. In the early 300s, Authority had a criminal problem. Across dozens of systems, prisons were overflowing with habitual criminals too hardened to reintegrate into lawful society, but not heinous enough to simply execute. They were a teeming mob of recidivist thieves, thugs, fanatics, swindlers, and whores. Many were crammed aboard decommissioned orbital hulks. They became husks later, apparently. Effectively unsupervised, it was a disgraceful political scandal that reached its peak simultaneously with the historic voyages of discovery. Authority-funded vessels had crossed the Great Stellar Rift and hurriedly catalogued thousands of new worlds, many of them ripe for colonization but unimaginably distant. Why not, certain small but insistent voices within government reasoned, solve two problems at once? Why not dispatch authority's unwanted refuse to a distant star, and then put them to work for the betterment of authority? Why not establish a penal colony somewhere, anywhere, across the Great Rift? Let the prisoners work and build themselves a better life, and in the process build authority a new outpost at the leading edge of the Empire. There was something in the proposal for everybody. Reformers, who hated the orbital hulks, were mollified by the stirring image of convicts striving to remake themselves on an untamed planet. The political class breathed a sigh of relief as the criminal problem literally vanished. Authority could look forward to a base of operations on the far side of the rift, extending influence in a largely unexplored region, brimming with opportunity. Best of all, in time, a colony would support itself and perhaps even return a tidy profit to the governmental coffers that founded it. The idea enjoyed popular support the way that a mop in somebody else's hands enjoys popular support. To say that planetary surveyors were enthusiastic is perhaps too kind. Their optimism resulted in many deaths across the Great Rift, as favorable conditions were overplayed and hazards missed, misunderstood, or woefully omitted from reports. Nobody took a second look at the initial surveys. The planet would be good enough, Authority reasoned. Nobody did the math regarding sustainability and worst-case scenarios. No one consulted the civil servants tasked with managing a penal colony, nor the Marines sent to maintain order. Certainly nobody consulted the convicts themselves, who, as a rule, lacked any useful skills. The First Fleet departed in 320, it says here, and the result was a horrific lesson in political expediency, good intentions, and very bad planning. So, yeah, the way this is that the thing they set out to do is not necessarily the thing they're going to find themselves doing. So, the first step here is gathering materials. We have those. We're using Roll20 as much as we're able to with this, and I've got some cards here that I'm going to be using. Oh, look at that! They're see-through. Excellent. We've got the planetary survey and the colonial record as we are figuring out this planet. Ahead of time, we picked out the different elements on the survey and the record, and I'm going to go into detail a little bit about what we've determined for the planet we're going to use, and then we're going to look that planet up, and we're going to start doing stuff with it. So, on the planet, so these things are true. Let's see. I need to actually pull up a thing in front of me so that I don't have to be flipping back and forth. Too late! Let's do it this way. So, yes, the atmosphere is excellent. The atmosphere is perfect. Sweet, breathable air in a human-rated mix of nitrogen, oxygen, and argon, just like home. That is true. The climate is good. Surface temperature, weather patterns, and atmospheric stability are all favorable, just like home. The hydrology is excellent. Surface water is abundant and drinkable, just like home. Now, the things the survey lied about. The geology, it said, is good. On second look, geology is a lethal combination of violent, unstable, difficult, and convoluted. Life here is dangerous where it isn't outright impossible.
Sounds about right.
Yep. The biology, they said, is good. The local biology. On second look, native life here is toxic where it isn't outright lethal. It might be acidic, explosive, infectious, aggressive, or deadly in countless other ways. Then they reported there is no intelligent life here. were surprised to discover the natives are intelligent and primitive, but clearly keen on catching up as fast as they can. They are strange and dangerous. They watch us and wait. Always fun. So that is A, B, D. Those are, we picked out that each of those signifiers have letters.
Well, at least the air and water doesn't want to kill us.
I know, right?
It could be worse.
It could be worse.
Totally be worse. And we're going to explore how that can be worse.
Thousands of light years just to end up in Australia.
I know. Well, yeah, this for anyone who hasn't caught on to this yet, this is in fact the story of Australia in space, basically. A, B, D. I'm going to flip to that card here. There it is. Pratt's Folly is the name of the planet. So, not sure how this place got its name, but it is a gem. A healthy this is the survey, the initial survey. A healthy atmosphere and surface water in great quantities. The climatology report is stellar. Regional and seasonal variations are minor, and life here would be very pleasant. Recommended. Then on second look, gigantic, impassable mountains punctuated by glaciers tens of kilometers thick. Narrow bands of arable land among the frozen bergschrunds, whatever those are. We've learned that the planetary biome aggressively dominates non-native introductions. The natives, intelligent and savage. So that is what we're working with.
Perfect.
Yes. So the planet we're on, just as is Pratt's Folly. Let me go ahead and type that in here before I forget, which is something I'm excellent at. Pratt's Folly. That's where we are. Okay.
Do you think maybe it was Pratt's favorite? Pratt was the surveyor, and it was his favorite one. And
I
then
know.
once we got here, we're like, nah.
I'm just
really,
wondering how Pratt missed the glaciers.
Yeah.
How is that a detail you miss?
I don't know. You'd think you could see it as you're approaching through the windows of the ship.
He was like, oh, there's ice. Ice means there's water.
What's better than fresh ice water?
Exactly. But I mean, say what you like. The hydrology is excellent.
Technically.
Just be careful with the seafood.
Yeah. So we have to establish a colony on this rock, and we again drew letters to tell us. And so these things thus far in the planetary record, what was officially sent back, these things are true. Planning. The colony is well planned and laid out intelligently, arranged according to both function and in some measure aesthetics. Workforce. The colony's workforce is effective. The workers are a mix of motivated, healthy, and skilled. The labor pool is deep and wide. And justice. The rule of law is firmly in place, and the judge-advocate presides over a functioning, if truncated, judicial system. Now, here come what they lied about.
Oh boy, I'm so excited.
Density.
Literally on the edge of my seat.
The density... They said the density level is comfortably spacious and there's room for all. The truth is, the colony is either cramped to the breaking point, inviting disease and discord, or it is spread across the land so thinly that services are strained.
I mean, there's only so much arable land. You got to squeeze everyone right in there with all the farmers.
They can live up on the glaciers, can't they?
Hey! All that water must mean sardines.
Exactly. You gotta be in there somewhere. Let's see. Prosperity. They said prosperity is high and growing. The colony is dying, and there is only scarcity and want. Industrial and agricultural schemes have largely failed. Finally, they said, order. They said that the convict population is compliant and docile. Truth is, the convicts may run the colony or be in semi-open rebellion or otherwise openly violent and prone to misbehavior. So let's see, this is UWZ. So let me pull that card. UWZ. Here we go. Delta Colony. So here's the record. The official record says, "Don't work, don't eat." That's our motto.
Wait. Jim. Delta Colony?
Delta Colony, yeah.
I thought we were going to Docile Colony.
Oh. Yeah, that was supposed to be. Don't work, don't eat. That's our motto, and it is hard but fair. Oh, this is going to be great. There may not be enough food, but there is work enough for all. Maintaining the defensive perimeter wall, keeping our densely packed colony tidy and shipshape, assisting authority in myriad tasks necessary for the continuance of our functioning judiciary. Now, from the convict side, don't work, don't eat. Don't fight, don't eat. Don't know the right sort of people? Don't eat. Don't do what the Dimber Damber asks of you? Don't eat. There's a spiral there, is of the weak getting weaker and the fat getting fatter, and authority don't care. And that's how things are on Delta Colony. So let's see. There are some... So, Delta Colony on Pratt's Folly. Let me go ahead and actually, again, write that in. Okay. Delta Colony, there we go. Alright. So, now that we got that in place, we can move on to the next step. There are also, at some point, there are some prompts on there I may read out at some point, just if you want them. But yeah, you know, you should also possibly have them in your materials as well, if you want. But let me see here. Next step. So, the drives. So. Okay, so trying. Oh, yeah, well, before we even get to drives, take a moment as a group to pitch ideas and brainstorm about the colony and the planet upon which it has been established. Yeah, I think we're gonna do this all sort of together. As it might. Do you want to do the drive? Figure out the drive. Made one of the other major drives for this colony first. I think that might help. Let's go ahead and just do that first, real quick. So, the way this works. Is that we kind of, you can see there what drives us is, and there are 6 things down there. We're already driven by servility and savagery. That's the case with every colony. But there's a third drive that's also in there. And the way this works is that we each go around and we cross off options until there's only one left. As there are 6 options. Here's an idea. I'm going to ask you to roll a die and roll 20, and that will tell me where we are starting. Because someone's only going to get to cross off one thing instead of 2. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, a couple of us. So yeah, just roll like a d6 if you've got the thing. Okay. Instead, we're going to be starting with you, so that means you're definitely going to get to go at least, you're going to get to go more than once. We need to cross off one of those 6 words there. We have control, status, safety, harmony, indulgence, and freedom.
I'm going to cross off harmony.
All right. And it'll go, since the way I'm going is sort of left-right as the sort of on my screen, because it's a couple of rows, so it'll come back to me next. And what drives us? I feel like this is, well, see, I could see several things here. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and cross off freedom. I think that's, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's no hope. Or less hope than that.
There really isn't here.
Yeah. So it goes around to Alyssa. Safety. You're not driven by safety. And Rock, you get to cross one off. Let's see. Harmony, freedom, safety are all crossed off already.
So control, status, or indulgence.
So which one do you want to cross off, Rock?
All right. Let's go with control.
Okay. So we're not driven by control. Strike through there. Okay, and it's back around to Antisted. You get to, of those last two, we've got, it's going to be either status or indulgence that gets crossed out. Which one do you want to do?
I'm thinking cross off status, so leave us, so we're driven by indulgence.
All right. Indulgence it is!
Because on a planet that wants to kill us.
That's right.
We're on a planet that wants to kill us in pretty much every conceivable way possible. We just gotta enjoy life while we got it.
That's right.
Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die.
Absolutely.
Pretty much!
Yep. Excellent. Okay, we are driven by indulgence. Servility, savagery, and indulgence. So, let's see. On to the next bit. As we are throwing that down. Oh, I do have the book right there. It's right there. Okay. So, next bit. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. So, we've done drives. And we should also imagine how that third drive is going to be reflected within the colony. Now kind of build this up. And then we're going to start moving into notables. So let's talk a little bit about this colony before we do the notables. Because these are going to be the characters that are, the featured characters in this drama. So I'm kind of... is there anything in particular we're seeing that we want to make sure is here in this narrative? And it can be anything, but just something we imagine from what we've talked about thus far.
Not sure.
Yeah. And this is also stuff we can just sort of discover in play if we want, but if anyone's got any thoughts or ideas, I wanted to give an opening for that. I'm imagining this is... How much of this planet do we think is ice?
Probably a good part of it. I don't know. I mean, so here's a question, and this will help with the question of how much of the planet is ice. What angle is the planet's axis in relation to the sun that it orbits? Because if it's at an extreme angle, then that means based off of the rotation, there's potentially a part of the planet that is always facing away from the sun. And so your polar ice caps would expand from there.
Oh.
For instance, like if the planet is at like a 45-degree angle or something, then there's a good part of it that's always going to receive sun. It's always going to be warm. In fact, that may be where very little land actually is. Whereas on the opposite end of the planet, you're going to have mostly polar ice cap.
That's an interesting idea. So, like, if it's a planet where... So, they'd probably put the colony somewhere in, like... If that were the case, they'd probably put it somewhere in, like, what, the Twilight Band?
Well, I mean, I think it would depend on... That would depend largely on what type of supplies that we brought with us, as well as anything that was found there natively.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're going to be looking at anything that's going to be in the area exposed to the sun. Draw analogies to our desert life. Whereas anything that's going to be on the opposite end, closer to the polar ice caps, you're going to figure is going to be similar to what we find there, as far as like something, similar to like whales and penguins and polar bears and stuff like that. So, and if there, if there is going to be anything that's going to be in that dark area, I mean, I would figure that if we go with this idea, I mean, I'm just, kind of going with what I've thrown out, and I mean, anybody else feel free to jump in. But if we're going with that kind of idea, you got to figure that the part that's going to be mostly towards the sun is going to receive sunlight the majority of its rotation, or the majority of its year. So at that point, you'd be looking at the colony itself would either have to be purposefully built with a lot of shade, or would be partially subterranean.
We do have meticulous planning, so it honestly could be either one.
Yeah, there'd probably be the infrastructure for that at least, so they figured out what they'd need to do ahead of time to try at least. Although the thing is, those things they figured they need to do aren't really necessarily working as far as, agriculture is concerned.
Right.
But it is working in terms of, like, orderly colony, and the colonists are staying relatively alive, aside from the, lack of food. It's kind of an issue there.
Well, and where that could come into play is as far as the meticulous planning is concerned, maybe the meticulous planning takes place after we got here. So, I mean, because, based off of the inaccuracies of the report, certain things were sent in regards to supplies, and that could explain why it is that agriculture isn't working as well, because the wrong things were picked to be sent. So therefore, only some of what was sent actually thrives and survives. The rest of it died off pretty quickly. Okay.
And then we adapted to try to work the stuff that we could grow, and then maybe try to work with this bio-life that may or may not just kill us.
Yeah.
I mean, if they have food, that's certainly something.
I like to imagine now that there's just a significant, like, it's not even just farmers producing what food we have, there's also a significant number of scavengers, or like hunters, going out and trying to get what they can of the wildlife. And that's being a scavenger is one of the most dangerous jobs on the planet, because you need to leave the colony where not only plants, animals, and other wildlife, but also people trying to kill you.
Yeah.
It's delightful. I'm actually, in a moment, I'm going to read out these prompts just in case, so that'll kind of help us sort of visualize some more stuff, I think. But first, Alyssa, did you have any other thoughts or things you wanted to throw in here?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
But I'll chime in if something pops into my head.
Cool. So for Pratt's file, I'm going to go ahead and read these out as stuff that they might have had in mind when they kind of put this together. We can use them or reject them as we see fit, but there are 6 prompts here for Pratt's Folly for the planet. So we have these are just sort of images, things we might have there or see there. The burning ground, swept daily by Marines to keep ice and predators at bay. The burning ground is initial cap, so that's like a place. An actual paper book, first waterlogged and then frozen. A sign with the colony's original name. I can't pronounce this.
I can't pronounce this. This is a great name for a colony.
I can't pronounce this. Is an awesome name for a colony, isn't it? It's either Cal or Chal. Calcutlicu. I have no idea.
I like to imagine if that sign is somewhere on the planet, someone has just crossed it out and put, "How do you pronounce this?"
I know, right? I love that. I'm going to go ahead and put that in chat so that everyone can see what this word was that I was trying to say. And yeah. But anyway, and perhaps he says, okay, there's a guide. I can, yeah. Chalchiutlique. It's the Aztec goddess of rivers and oceans. I thought that might be something there. Okay, yeah.
Speaking of that scene in the Star Trek movie where he's going through all the different races and their words for heaven, and he stops at one point and he goes, and their word is, well, it's unpronounceable.
Yeah, no. This unfortunately I just was not familiar with, but yeah. So that's I can see why Pratt wanted to call it that. Rivers, oceans, bunch of those. So let's see. Ruins of a non-human civilization. That's another thing that might show up. Someone saying, these things are almost human, but their features are not fixed to the skull. Oh, God. Whatever that might mean. And then number 6 here, Lunicent Pilfer's makeshift skis. If we want to use that someone might have makeshift skis. I can see someone needing makeshift skis. For Delta Colony, the prompts are a crudely hacked passkey to the thermopool core. If celebrating death is a sin, may Marguerite Hood live forever. Lieutenant Gurith's undoctored medical records. A blank arrest warrant. A crack in the wall crudely plastered over. Or the case of missing fragmentation grenades, carefully shepherded by cooler heads. So those are all things also that could turn up in this whole thing. But as we go, we actually have gotten to the notables. So we're going to be creating a cast of characters as we sort of go through. And this is going to be up on the colonial sheet that we have. That folks should be able to see, the authority notables and the convict notables. And it says, handsheets, ask them to choose a role that interests them. Okay. So the way this is going to go, so we have let me briefly go over the ladder here, because you've got the ladder is both horizontal and vertical. On the vertical ladder, the core of this game is that it's about competing hierarchies. So the authority has at the top the governor of the colony. The governor has functionaries. The judge advocate and the captain of marines are the two biggies. They're the governor's enforcers. You have the free colonists below them. Those are swells, planters, and the spouses of I believe the planters. And a brief explanation there. Is that the swells are free men and women who settled in the colony for reasons of their own, for perverse reasons of their own. It says they paid their own way, seeking an opportunity or running away from one. Some are professional, some are planters. Some of them might be employees of the authority. And some swells are married to members of the authority. So. Like a few Marines and functionaries have brought spouses, free citizens to the colony, and so that's on. And then below them you have the Marines, who are there because they listen to the siren song of a lying recruiter. They basically are just there to keep order. Authority's big sticks, and then under them you have the Emancipists, who are freed convicts who have made their peace with the authority and earned their freedom, basically their ticket of leave. And most of them, it says, become modest planters and are all haunted by their past actions and allegiances. A single word from an authority will put them back in chains. So that's on the left-hand side. That's on the side of the Authority. Now, on the top, and the convicts, they have their own hierarchy, which it's not something that is talked about amongst the Authority, or I thought it, or it wasn't until they were all stuck together. So at the top you have the Dimber-Damber, the criminal-in-chief and overseer of the illicit economy and goods and services. And the Dimber-Damber's word, metaphorically at least, is law. The ruler of the criminal universe, basically, on this planet. Below the Dimber-Damber, you have their minions. The Abbot and Captain Sharp are the two main ones. The Abbot is generally their left-hand procurer and purveyor of all vice within the colony. Drugs, gambling, prostitution, luxury items, food theft. The Abbot has a hand in all these, and more dutifully kicking back the profits to the Dimber-Damber. And for those who need an audience or mercy from the Dimber-Damber, appeals to and through the Abbot are the usual route. You have Captain Sharp, who is the Dimber-Damber's chief lieutenant. Captain Sharp bears a title that is deliberately a mockery of rank and power. Captain Sharp is, more often than not, a homicidal thug and paragon of corruption and violence, used to extort and enforce the Dimber-Damber's will. So basically, chief enforcer. On the third rung, you have the Bolters, runaway gangsters, convict royalty, it says. Essentially, they're celebrated outlaws, because they've bolted. They've gone away from the colony. They ran. Sometimes convicts and occasionally Marines chuck it all, running away from the settlement toward a short but eventful life in the wilderness. The minute they run, they become high-priority criminal targets, and those that haunt the colony's fringes form menacing gangs that the Marines hunt for sport. To the convicts, bolters are outlaw heroes, and to swells, particularly emancipists, they are a plague. And bolters range from Robin Hood-like crusaders to cannibal lunatics. And down below that, on the fourth rung, we have the Lags and the Sables. Lags and Sables are men and women convicted of crimes against authority important enough to merit severe punishment, but trivial enough to prevent their summary execution. And in practice it means they're thieves, con artists, highway robbers, and burglars. And they've been convicted of crimes ranging from petty theft and burglary to manslaughter. Each has received a sentence of either 7 years, 14 years, or life, typically. Let's see. Moving on there. At the bottom, we have outcasts, wreckers, and crawlers, who are generally political prisoners or useless ruined prisoners. Wreckers are political prisoners and troublemakers. They are universally hated by the authority and lagdom alike because their dangerous ideas have ruined entire planets. Whether their beliefs are religious, political, or simply philosophical, their words infect other colonists and undermine the established order of the authority and convict worlds. And they're often, it says, assigned to swells to do backbreaking manual labor, usually as punishment. The crawlers are basically any lag who survives long enough to becomes a crawler. The most useless of all. Crawlers are the broken, the aged, the infirm, and insane. No one pays crawlers any mind. So that's everybody. And so as we are now going through, we're going to put people on this ladder. We each get 2. So we each will be going through, picking a rung on the ladder, and on one of the 2 sides, and putting a character there, and that will be controlling that character. That's essentially how this is going to work. So you basically pick a rung, you write down a name. They've got a list of names if we want to use that, but you don't feel like you have to hold to that. Who wants to start? Do you want me to start by way of demonstration, or would one of you like to start?
If you don't mind, I would like to start. I honestly kind of feel like making a bolter, because the idea of those scavengers is stuck with me ever since I mentioned it. So now I kind of want to make a person who actually has managed to live out here. I mean, they're probably going to die soon, but all the convicts respect them because, holy shit, they've been out there for like 2 weeks and they're still alive.
Excellent. So yeah, go ahead and then just write a name in there. And I think, if you don't mind, pick a color so that we know whose it is. We could just use the ones that Roll20 assigned us, but if you don't want to, then that's fine. And actually, yeah, because the two of them will be too close to each other, so... yeah, just pick a color and kind of let us
what
know.
are the recommended names? Because I always have trouble coming up with names.
Sure, absolutely. And kind of whilst you're working that out, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to grab rungs at first, and then we can go around and talk about who these characters are. And so, as we're going through, I guess we'll just go the same order. Or we could go reverse order. Let's go reverse order, actually. So that means we're going to go to rock, and so the bolter rung is taken. There's someone there. So, what rung do you want to grab? And it can be on either side.
I don't know, man. I mean, playing a con artist sounds really good. On the other hand, being a swell.
Well, the good news is we're going to get two, and they're on either side of the ladder. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm gonna go with a convict. I'm gonna be a con artist. Yeah.
Awesome.
Why not?
Okay. Let's see. Antisted, what did you decide what color you're picking so that we can?
Yeah, purple again.
Okay. So, Rock, go ahead and pick a color other than purple and write a name there, under the under the lags.
All right.
And
Okay.
that rung is taken. I think I'm going to go ahead and put little marks there just to show what's been taken until we've got the names in place. And Alyssa, you may grab a rung.
Let's see. Maybe I'll go with Marine.
So one of the rank and file Marines?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And so, Rock, what color are you picking?
I'm going with red.
Okay. All right, cool. There it is. So yeah, let's see, you can pick a color other than red or purple, and just go in there. So around to me, and I think I'm going to take the judge advocate. And I will figure out who I want that to be. I'm going to take green since no one has green yet.
Hey, Jim, how do you
Unless Alyssa takes green. Wait, Alyssa, what color are you taking? I'm sorry. You want green? You can have green. What color do you want?
I don't care. I will just go with black.
Okay. Alright. Taking green. Then that is the case. Okay, so I'm going to come up with a name for a judge advocate in a moment. And but then in the meantime, it's going to go around to back around to Antistud. And now what you need to do is pick from the authority side of the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Something on one of the rungs that so it has to be a different level. Obviously, the Marine is taken already, so that's not going to be a problem. Here, wait a minute. The bolter. Hang on. You took a bolter, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so it needs to be. So you need to pick either the governor or an emancipist.
Oh yeah, because it can't be on the same rung.
Yeah. So you can't be on the same horizontally.
Probably emancipist then.
All right. Cool. So yeah, you can go ahead and fill that in, and it is back around to Rock.
I'll go with a swell, a free colonist.
Let me see here. Alyssa. Let's see. You're going to be picking from the opposite side that you already picked from. You grabbed a Marine, so you need to pick either the Dimber Damber or one of the minions. Or one of the outcasts, actually. We've got... I think... Wait a minute. Did we end up uneven here? No, we're good. We're good. I'm going to pick from that side, too. So, which side... Actually, let me ask you briefly. Which side did you picked from the Marine side? Yeah, so you're going to pick one of those other three.
All right. How about the Abbot?
Awesome. Cool. All right. And that leaves me to pick either the Dimber Damber or the Wreckers and Crawlers. I guess I'm going to go for the Dimber Damber. If folks are okay with that.
I'm good with that.
I don't think I've actually played the Dimber Damber before in one of these games, so I will go ahead and do that. And I played a Crawler last time, I think. So, cool. Alright, so I'm going to need to come up with names, which I will do in a little bit. Whilst I am, in the meantime, I just marked mine up there so that I know which ones I'm grabbing. So, I think what we'll start doing now, if we're good to do so, is we can start talking about any sort of impressions we have about these characters, who they are, what they're like. We can do that, actually. Look at a thing here. Yeah. So, actually, there are a couple of different ways we can do this if we want. So, if we've got... do you want to... let me ask you, do you want to go into talking more about the details of the characters first, or do you want to pick oaths first?
I feel like the oaths will help us flesh out the characters a little more, so I'd rather do that first.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, if folks are okay with that, then we'll go ahead and do that. And that'll also give us more time to figure out more stuff about, how we want to deal with them. So, an oath is something a character is sworn never to do, and in this step, you and the other players will choose them for your notables. An oath should be a very serious thing, and it should be something that will conflict with your colony's unique drive, which is indulgence, in this case. So an oath is something to be challenged. It should motivate the other players to create difficult situations for the notable. If you choose, I will never wear chains again as an oath, you are asking everyone else to put that character in situations where returning to convict life is tempting or even essential. Outward-facing oaths that involve other characters are better than inward-facing oaths for this reason. So, we're going to keep in the same rotation. So Anti-Stud will need to pick out one of the oaths down below for their character. It's the one thing that notable is sworn they will never do as long as they draw breath.
Well, for my bolter...
And keep in mind, by the way, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. You can assign it to any of the characters. It doesn't have to just be yours.
Oh!
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. That one tiny thing, that tiny detail, where we can screw each other over. This is that time. Obviously, the X card is still in effect, so I'm gonna give people are gonna have right of refusal on the oaths getting assigned.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
yeah, go ahead and you can assign it to anyone. You can assign it to your own character if you want, but you can also assign it to anyone else's if you so desire.
Just to be safe, because this character idea is slowly building in my head. For my bolter, I'm going with pride, and I will never pay for protection.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
So feel free to use that to completely and utterly mess with me.
So what you might want to do is put that there in the box under your character's name. So that'll tell us, or at the very least you could just do like what Pride 3 if you want to do it that way. Or shorthand, however you want to do it, and so that we'll be able to see what that is, and thus be able to do terrible, terrible things to to your character.
Great.
And that's going to Livia von Sucro.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Excellent. All right, Rock. What oath do you want to assign to whom?
So I'm thinking that being a con artist, that Vegas will never keep a profitable secret. So betrayal 3.
Excellent. Very cool. Very cool. And Alyssa, what else do you want to grab for and for whom?
Okay. For my Marine, I'm gonna take Betrayal 2. I will never rat out my mates. They didn't sign up for this either.
Excellent. Excellent. Cool. All right. We seem to be doing our own, so I'll do the same. Right now, both of my characters are named TBD because I have to actually think in order to do this, and I can't think and talk at the same time, as probably everyone has noticed by now. So let me see here. Or that's how I think. It's hard to explain. It's a strange symbiosis, but I digress. Anyway, let's see. So either the Dimber Damber or the Judge Advocate. I think... Ooh. I will never... This is where it gets interesting, because if we are saying that the criminals are kind of running the colony possibly at this point, as suggested, then the rule of law might at this point sort of refer to more the convict side than the other side.
Possibly, yeah.
Because I was thinking about for the Dimber Damber saying I will never forgive those who break the law. But the law that I'm talking about...
You're the law!
Yeah, exactly.
The law is whatever you say it is.
Exactly. But, yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah.
If you want me to pitch out an idea, I was going to do this next to you, actually. I was going to give your Damber honor 6. I will never steal nor let a theft go unpunished.
That's interesting. Actually, I kind of like that. I kind of like that better. So, what I'll do instead then... well, if that's the case... let's see... Dun 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 dun. Ramiel Jones is either is which one?
That's me.
Right, no, but I mean it's the Abbot or Captain
It's the
Sharp?
Abbot.
The Abbot, okay. How do you feel about it says I will never kill a man. I will never kill anyone. How do you feel about that?
Sure.
So yes.
Now, if she were Captain Sharp, then that might be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. Well, and that's the thing is that we're now going to be putting Ramiel in situations in which it would be advantageous to kill someone. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and so when we coming back around to Antisted, what was the one you assigned me again?
Honor 6. I will never steal nor let a theft go unpunished.
I like that. That's very good. Let me go ahead and actually grab the text there just so that I can write it down.
So a little bit of order in all the chaos. A little
Yeah,
bit.
just a wee bit. And this is going to go around to Rock. What would you like to grab? What oath would you like to grab there?
I think I'm gonna go with for Fisher. I'm gonna go with I will never allow an innocent to go hungry.
For Fisher? Okay.
Bold.
I will never allow an innocent to go hungry. Which one is that on? That's on...
Mercy 3.
Excellent. Okay. And Alyssa? You can assign it either to... Looks like... the left-handed Von Sucro or to the Judge Advocate.
To Anthony Von Sucro, the Emancipist.
Mm-hmm.
I will never place the people's freedom over my own comfort.
Ooh.
Self-interest, number 4.
Ah, nice.
I like it. I like it.
Excellent. So that leaves me with one for my Judge Advocate. So that one, I was considering that one. That one is taken now, however. So I shall look at something else. Let's see. It'd be weird to make that one. I will never punish those who break the law. That's like their job.
Yeah, that's... I mean, with all the chaos, who says you can even do your job?
That's a thought, yeah.
I mean, they could have adopted that attitude out of futility, or maybe they're on the take, or...
Ooh,
yeah, I like the. I think I like where this could go if I do something that kind of that contradictory. Just because it just seems interesting to me. I'm gonna take that, and I will never punish those who break the law, and see if there's a way to make that work. If not, I may have to switch it up. We'll see. But
I mean, you could just be in the Dimber Damber's pocket.
yeah, I think that's probably the explanation. But that sounds good to me. Okay, let me grab the text there, and I'm just gonna copy and paste because I can.
Just paid in food to turn a blind eye.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, survival. I need to make it through. So this is how we do that.
Should I survive or do my job?
Yeah. I wonder. I wonder how this is gonna go. All right, so come on. There we go. Just trying to make it so that it was legible there. Okay. So we've got all of our notables, and we've got their oaths. Step 6 is, at this point you have a planet and a colony chosen, and you know what drives the colonists. Each player has created 2 characters, and each character has a solemn and unbreakable oath. Now take a moment to talk about these details, flesh out the colony further. Okay, so we're going to try to figure out things like, what is the planet like, what is the colony like, and we've kind of been talking about that somewhat. We haven't talked about the colony itself as much. And then it says, take a moment to discuss the relationships implicit among the colonial notables you've created. So I think as we're kind of sort of figuring this out, and it says, as the host, take this time to fill in names for any blank positions on the notable sheet. I think we can actually hold off on filling in the names because there's a sort of mechanic when one of the characters goes away that is possible here. But in any case, what do we think about how this colony runs then?
I think we basically already said the convicts are the ones in charge. The government really doesn't have any power here anymore. Everything is kind of just falling apart. It's do your job or die. Know people or die. It's all about connections.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to do what you have to survive.
So how are they? Let me ask. What are they doing as far as when they're looking for food? Is it all just basically at this point still hunter-gathering at this point, or are they actually able to, like, is there like a tiny scraps of things they're growing, or is it all just, stuff left over from what they brought with them, and they're all eventually going to die? What do we think?
Everyone else can feel free to input, but in my mind, it's a little bit that's left over, probably incredibly stale by this point. Somewhat farming, growing what you can, but probably that plus the leftovers is like 50% of our stock, and the rest is people going out trying to gather something. Ooh, something that's possibly controversial or very bad, but what if we're eating the natives? What if we're getting that desperate?
I do have some questions. My first question is, does anyone here have a line with respect to cannibalism? Not something that one asks on this stream that often, but the opportunity was there.
I mean, there's the line that you draw just shortly before you take your cut.
Yeah.
I feel like the abbot is trying to avoid that.
Let us not resort to cannibalism. Let's go. But are we okay then with trying to eat the natives?
Well, so
honestly, I'm kind of okay with both because I feel like we're that desperate at this point. Like, I hate to say it, but are these wreckers and crawlers really doing anything at this point? Like, if they're not working, shouldn't we just make the most of them?
It's like, so there might be a Soylent Green plan in place.
welcome to season 5 of the 100. Actually, that was something that I wanted to go ahead and bring up. Is so in case anybody hasn't watched the 100 or season 5 of the 100, there is a very similar situation to kind of what we've described already. And when it came to the topic of cannibalism, they only ate the dead. Now, granted, of course, in their particular instance, they started to implement sort of a death sport as a punishment for crime. and I'm not necessarily saying that we've resorted to that yet, but
everything gets recycled.
yeah, I mean, basically that's exactly what it was, and they even showed that was how it got started, was that they were at a point where it was scarcity in food. They had a couple of people that had like died in a riot or something, or died of natural causes. I don't remember exactly at this point, but the approach that was taken is, basically everything gets recycled. So, and I mean, granted, as they depicted in the show, this eventually led to a point where the criminal system kind of fed into gradually killing people for food. But if we're going to go ahead and approach the whole thing of cannibalism, my first comment is do we want to go ahead and have it where maybe the governor has put in a restriction that it's only the dead that get eaten? In order to kind of attempt to preserve some sense of humanity and civility. The other question that I would have is in reference to eating the natives. Do we have we encountered natives on this planet, on this colony world, that are more than animals in nature? Because if we haven't encountered anything that isn't of higher intelligence as far as we perceive than an animal, colonists may not even, that may not even be considered a question to ask,
I think the revised survey said the natives were intelligent and savage.
Yep.
So there is that issue of, eating something that is sentient. But at the same time, are we desperate enough that it's coming down to it's you or us?
Yeah.
I feel like if we're not already at that point, we're maybe like a month, a few weeks away from that.
Right.
Close.
And if we consider them to be nothing more than savages, we may be even closer or less reluctant to cross that line.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna get there. What do we think? I am curious what we think the natives are like. What do we want to say? What kinds of creatures do we want to say they are? Something that could survive on a planet with a lot of ice on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Now my brain immediately goes to things with a lot of fur, but then we could go in other directions.
Well, Yeti.
Yeah, I mean that's
the first thing that popped into my head. Yeah.
I mean, as cute as he is, let's face it, the Bumble is really nothing but meat. So
we could say that these are things that are like, that might have certain aspects of them that maybe we kind of think of them as like Yeti, but they're not as. So there's something that makes them a little bit different from what we would traditionally think of as Yeti.
Again, just going back to the planet card, one of the details suggested thing was these things look human but twisted. Their features are not fixed to the skull. So maybe we could build off of that for these Yetis.
Not fixed to the skull. I'm not even sure quite what that means, and I'm a little frightened, a little afraid. What do we think? What
comes to my mind is kind of like the first thing that comes to mind is like classic D&D beholder, like eyes on stalks instead of eyes on the face.
Yeah, eyes on the stalk, maybe instead of like a mouth that's actually, flat against the face itself. It could be protruded, almost like a snout, or actually, oh god, I can't think of the character's name right now. Star Wars: Return of the Jedi, the one singer in Jabba's palace.
Oh yeah.
She had the eyes up,
Noodle
and then
or something.
the mouth was like way out on some little snout. So her features were not on her skull. Also, creatures like the Andorians from Star Trek, where they had the feelers that were supposed to be sort of kind of sensory.
Okay. So I'm feeling something that maybe is has a very heightened sense of smell, and so is able to. Do we want? Let me ask.
Smell or
are
sound?
these surface creatures, or do they live like in the caves? Subterranean.
I feel like among the glaciers, I feel like you would have to go underground. But I don't know nature.
Yeah, I'm not so great at it myself, but
I mean, for something kind of human-like, I think that we would probably find it more in the caves. On the other hand, if you take a look at now, and this would of course require a slightly change if you wanted to go with something that wasn't stereotypical fur covered. If you look at the way penguins are, where they have the slightly, now granted, penguins do have their actual covering, I think, is supposed to be almost more kind of fur-like or feather-like, since they are birds. But if I remember correctly, one of the things that they show is that they will often congregate in large groups where they have their backs facing outwards, and they kind of are in this circular kind of grouping. So it's possible that whatever these beasts are, if we went that route, they may do a similar thing where in the cold, in the exposed to wind and stuff like that, they may do a similar grouping, or they may do a similar grouping when they can't find caves. So it may be that they may have evolved over a period of time where they have a body that's similar to like penguins, so that they are able to survive out in the cold if they absolutely have to. But because they're a little smarter and a little more developed, if they can find caves, they'll seek shelter.
I have to say I'm really kind of digging the penguin idea.
Same here.
Savage penguins.
Yes, if you're watching at any point, yes, we're creating space penguins.
Question. What makes them savage?
Well, as far as the colonists are concerned, they're savage. They might not actually be savage.
Yeah.
But I think that they probably have some rituals or others that a colonist saw.
Or just the sheer number of them could, in those big groups, could be intimidating. And if they feel threatened, they probably have some type of like bone structure where they could kind of beat you up.
Right, and even just the idea that if they work, you see them working together, and perhaps they are using tools.
The other thing to consider is that it may be savage from a perspective of their civilization has not advanced. It's not as old as ours. It hasn't advanced as far as ours. I mean, I hate to play this card, but when Europeans first came to America, the initial concept of the tribal nations was that they were savages and primitives. I mean, even though history has proven that they actually had very complex and deeply evolved societies and culture and everything like that, the European understanding of that was that they were savages. So these creatures could be just as culturally evolved as we are, but maybe their conditions didn't require the advancements in tools and technology.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that's the thing, is that they could be just as intelligent as the colonists.
Especially if
arguably more intelligent than the colonists, because some
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's.
No, I'm liking this.
Yeah. So like penguinoid creatures that are perhaps I'd like to think that they're like maybe they have things that are like antennae, or that sort of help them sort of just some way that they probably perhaps they're a little better at seeing in the dark, because they're often underground. And maybe they have the ability, if they use tools, then they might actually have like opposable thumb-like things on sort of that come off the sides of their body. It's like, oh, okay. But you might not notice at first because, oh, it's a penguin. No, it's not a penguin. Oh God, it's got a gun, or it's got a spear anyway. Maybe some of the penguins will have guns soon. We don't know.
Depends on how quickly we die.
Yes, that's true. That's fair. Okay, so I think we're getting a decent picture here. And then we already kind of talked about what the colony looks like. That there's that we're kind of so we're in a region that's like, what is it?
Mountains and glaciers.
Mountains and glaciers. So we kind of are on some area that's maybe it's a plateau that's relatively flat, where we could get buildings, and then we realized we had to burrow in, and
so it's probably some caves that we've dug or found.
I think maybe I think there's probably a combination. There's probably some degree of digging going on, where they're trying to. Not necessarily mine per se, but maybe some, but trying to get minerals. But at the same time, they're trying to get more livable spaces carved out, and so that's been happening. So you'd have the prisoner section of the colony, and then you would have the actual civilian section of the colony, and probably I think I'm guessing they'd keep the prisoners closer to the surface.
Probably because... well, that depends. I mean, we've been saying the convicts are kind of in charge. That's true. They can live where they want. The judge advocate is... they can just go wherever they want.
Yeah, that's fair.
And the orderly people, they're the ones trying to make a living.
Well, just as a thought, I mean, it could be that... What do you guys think about the idea of maybe if the convict population was kept closer to the surface, because it would not only put them closer to the work area, but also because of the conditions on the surface, escape and running away really didn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. Because if you didn't have a lot of supplies with you, you weren't going to go.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah.
Well, and also, it's the funny thing. It says again, the rule of law is firmly in place. Justice is universal. It's just that it works the opposite way that I think it was supposed to. This is going to be very interesting. Okay, I think we've got most elements in play. Were there any other bits of world building we wanted to do before we go to break?
One question I do have: if we are trying to grow something, what are we growing, and where is it growing?
Right. Yes. That's a good question, because I think part of the time we were talking about stuff we were trying to grow, and then we were talking about that it's whatever we were able to scrape together from the environment. I think there probably are other creatures on the planet that we hunt, or try to hunt, to perhaps not necessarily that much success. We'll see. Maybe there are larger things that are slightly to borrow the Yeti idea again. Maybe there are things that are like almost these four-legged creatures that we will sometimes try to use for food that we've found. Maybe they're kind of goat-like in some ways, except maybe because they have to get up and down the glaciers. Something along those lines, possibly. Or they could be burrowing creatures. No legs at all. Or we can have both. We can have all we want.
The first thing that came to my mind was mushroom farms.
Mushroom farms are good.
Since we're digging out caves anyway.
We're gonna grow mushrooms and lichens and...
Yeah, I think that's going to be primarily it.
On the surface, it's too cold to grow anything, so it has to be underground, but there's no light underground.
I think that works. I think that works probably best if they were trying. Yeah, they're there mostly to grow mushrooms and various things of that. That's probably the only thing they're going to be able to grow.
We might also be able to have some kind of like almost like a seaweed, like, because if we're in ice or anything, you got to imagine we probably have some kind of pond system.
Yeah, they probably tried to do hydroponics. So there's probably, I think, somewhere down below even a sort of an artificial greenhouse there with artificial light, maybe.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to grow stuff, as it might on Earth. And that's those are maybe the few plants that they were able to get to grow are down there. But that's it. That's all they were able to get. That's all the agriculture they were able to do. I feel like the penguin creatures probably survive more off of things that are sort of natural, other creatures, and then also they may have figured out how to grow mushrooms better than we can.
Yeah, or whatever local wildlife there is. Maybe there is something that grows in these mountains, and we just haven't figured out how to harvest it yet.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So what do you think? Are there any other things we want to add, or particular types of notable features, buildings, or anything that we want to make sure that exist in this place? Or shall we just sort of unfurl those as we go?
A greenhouse was mentioned. That's the main thing that comes to mind. Nothing really pops up right now.
I think that originally maybe there was a marked, sort of as they were starting to build things. There was a demarcation between prisoner area and civilian area, and I think that's become all but erased at this point.
Yeah.
Everyone just goes everywhere, and so there probably is some kind of municipal building that ostensibly was supposed to be where the governor works from. Maybe they still work from there. Right now, the governor is not as narratively important. Might come into play later. I think there are a few municipal buildings that they put somewhere in the I think again somewhere in the caves probably, but it it's one of those things where it's it's really more ceremonial than anything else.
At this point, yeah.
It's just where it's where folks go when there are tremors and they're scared.
It's the safest place. We should go there because it was built to be safe.
It's where people go when they're scared. That's basically all that really does anymore. All right, very cool. I think we're good. We're going to go ahead, I think, then, and go on break for a few minutes. And then when we will come back, we can then get these characters to conflict. We'll see what happens. This will be quite exciting. All right, folks, we'll see you shortly. we have returned, and we're now getting into the meat of the game itself. What the meat tastes like, we're not entirely sure yet because we've not yet resorted to cannibalism. We'll see.
It's gonna be fun.
I love puns you can sink your teeth into.
Oh dear. All right. Well, let's go.
Yeah, okay, let's go.
We gotta stop it before it escapes. Yeah. So I have. So we're gonna go around. We go around. We each take turn as a guide, and the guide primarily just sort of asks a question that puts other characters into a scene. Obviously, you want to kind of lean into the idea of getting them to, or playing with their oaths or trying to break their oaths. And so I think the first thing I want to... I need to ask a couple of questions, since we don't know a lot about these characters yet. I'm interested in putting Livia and Vegas into a scene, because I think there's something... because I feel as though there's something secretive that Livia might be doing. That Vegas might witness, and I kind of want to see how he reacts. So, Livia is a bolter. Around what part of the territory is? In what part of the territory can Livia be found?
Well, as a bolter, she travels with a few others. Generally, they stick to the caves, but whenever the authorities or really anyone else just feels like going out and hunting some bolters, they go out into the wilderness for a bit. Typically, they come back with 1 or 2 less people, but, I mean, it's better than being gunned down by the Marines.
Right. Okay, so... I think... So, yeah, I think what I'm going to frame here, this question I'm going to ask, and you folks will need to come up with something we'll need to come up with a scene to kind of see what this happens. And this, I don't know if this is going to immediately challenge an oath or not. But I kind of like to see sort of where it goes, and once we answer the question, that'll be kind of the end of the scene. So, my premise here is that Livia is doing something involving making contact with the planet's natives. And what I want to know is, what does Livia do when what are Livia's pronouns?
She, her.
She, her. Okay. What does Livia do when she finds Vegas spying on them as they do this interaction? And so that's going to be the scene. So now it is up to basically. It is up to Vegas. It is up to Rock and Antistud to frame a scene, to put a scene together, and play the scene so we can get that question answered.
Honestly, before we go into it, I need a preliminary question.
Sure.
Does she know Vegas, or know of him? I kind of feel like the answer is no, because she doesn't keep in touch with her brother. She doesn't really keep in touch with the people very much. Like, if someone wants to come out and join, like, she might vet them a little bit, but, I mean, if they want to be a free spirit, she's fine with that. So I don't know how much contact she keeps with the colony anymore.
Well, I mean, nobody ever really knows Vegas. This is the way Vegas likes it. He likes it nice and fair. However, I mean, it's like everybody's heard of Vegas. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Vegas is kind of Vegas is an honest gentleman, halfway man. So everybody's heard of Vegas.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Okay.
And
okay.
also, if need be, you can we can call on me or Alyssa to be NPCs if you like, if need be. We can sort of. Well, Alyssa and I can also throw things in as needed to do it. I'm mostly kind of, as I'm the guide, I'm mostly supposed to be kind of more impartial, so I'll try to hold back a little bit. But it's, however, we can just keep throwing things in if we want. If we say a thing, we can put it in there. So yeah, that's so. Where do we think this is taking place, and what's going on? And as you come into the scene, describe what your characters look like.
Just real quick here to clarify.
Sure.
So the premise for the scene is that, give me a second here.
Sure.
Livia is attempting to make some kind of beneficial contact with the natives, or beneficial to her or possibly other bolters.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
doing
what I'm thinking.
something. I left it open
Is
so
that-
you can decide that.
Okay.
Doing
All right.
something with the natives.
I'm thinking it probably happens in one of the caves, because, like, really, really deep in one of the colony's caves, like, they just accidentally made a connection to the natives and they didn't know. So probably she's in the caves with one or two of the natives, probably in her mind trying to understand them a little bit more.
Okay. So here's a question for you then. Is so Livia attempting to understand the natives is going to be beneficial to her, but what aspect of that is going to work in her favor in regards to the rest of the colony that would be of importance? I mean, for instance, is Livia thinking that if she's able to better understand the natives and communicate with them, maybe she could come back to the colony with a slightly elevated status because she's able to, quote unquote, tame the natives so that they're not constantly attacking the colony? Or is she maybe thinking that if she can communicate with the natives, she could occasionally coordinate natives raiding the colony as a distraction so that she and a few other bolters can sneak in, steal some supplies, and sneak back out? Where is her mindset as far as this idea of trying to understand the natives and communicate with them a little better? That would be advantageous to her.
Mainly her own survival. Honestly, she doesn't really give a shit about the colony anymore. She's fed up with all of it. Fed up with the law. Fed up with the law that all the criminals have set up at this point. She's just tired of it. She doesn't want anything to do with that anymore. And I mean, these people, she doesn't know how long they've been around, but clearly they're able to survive here. So maybe they can help me survive a little longer too.
Okay. So Livia isn't necessarily antagonistic towards the colony. She's done with the rules and the regulations and the BS and the backstabbing and everything, and she just kind of wants to be on her own.
Yeah.
And I think some of this detail is also stuff that we can develop and is going to come about and play. I think primarily though it's just a question of what's happening in the moment right now.
She's probably attempting to communicate with a couple of these natives, mostly via gestures, because there probably isn't a common language. Like maybe trying to arrange rocks into pictures, or trying to draw pictures in the dirt, things like that, simple things. Because she doesn't know how smart they are, but it's clear they have some sentience.
Okay. So
Okay.
Vegas sees that happening a little bit. There's something perhaps can't see as clearly what they're doing. The penguin, the natives are doing something on the ground.
Yeah. So, and I'm thinking, like Vegas is kind of. So if this is in a cave, he's probably kind of like behind a corner or something, kind of leaning around, and oh man, what's she up to? Maybe accidentally kicks a rock or something, makes a noise.
I think one of the natives probably at that point sort of looks up and just directly sort of points over there, like ah!
She would immediately look over there, because I mean who knows what could be over there. It could be something dangerous. It could just be some guy from the colony. Who knows?
Yeah, crap. And he's gonna like kind of pull back behind the wall, trying to.
I forgot my character's name. Olivia. Olivia's going to try to give the natives a calming gesture, and she probably has like a fur cloak that she borrowed from someone in the colony. Has that wrapped around her tight. Probably has at least one weapon, be it a gun, possibly two, like a gun and a knife or something hidden under there. So just put her hand to the gun under the coat and approach that rock. Probably at a decent pace, like jogging maybe.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, unless you want me to roll the dice, you decide how this goes.
She's totally intending to confront Vegas right now.
Okay. So you're running over to the spot where he is?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna think that part of the reason if this is going to be nearby where there was like a breakthrough in a wall and where you kind of discovered contact or something like that, I'm going to think maybe this area could be kind of thin, a little treacherous, not easy to move quickly through. Also, there's the fact that, Vegas is a little bit of a gimp. He's got, kind of a bad leg. So I think you're going to be able to catch up with him pretty easily.
Pretty easily, especially since she's probably lived out here for a bit. She's slowly getting more used to it.
Yeah. So then the question is going to be is when you confront Vegas. So when you confront me, is it going to be kind of a just like grab the arm and spin around, or is it going to be kind of like grab by the shoulders and slam against the wall, kind of, a little bluffing kind of?
I'm seeing the slam. Because this could potentially put her in a lot of danger with the colony. So this needs to be kept quiet.
Okay. All right. So you're gonna slam Vegas up against the wall.
Yep. Grab him and slam him up against the wall.
Okay. Hey, take it. All right. Take it easy. Don't damage the goods. Chill, relax.
I know who you are. I know you, Vegas. I've heard of you. Pretty much everyone in this damn place has.
Well, of course everybody's heard of me. Of course you've heard of me. I'm Vegas. Everybody knows. When you want something, you come to Vegas.
Yeah. So I've heard. And what if I want you to keep quiet?
Well, if you want Vegas to be silent, you gotta go to Vegas. You gotta ask Vegas.
Well, Vegas, how about you shut up and don't tell anyone that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Hey, in Vegas, anything can be bought, even silence.
Really?
Yeah, silence can be bought just as easily as, I don't know, a revealing word or, pack of cigarettes, maybe a beer. What,
Oh, okay. I think she's going to reach into her coat, probably pull out of a makeshift pocket probably a handful of mushrooms, because that's probably what she had the most readily access to. Right, you take this, you go back to that hellhole, and you don't talk to anyone about this.
Are those fresh?
Define fresh.
They weren't like
They're not rotting.
body or something, right? I mean, they're not like, from a can.
No, they're grown. They're grown. Possibly stolen from one of the farms.
Stolen from a farm, you say? Yeah, it's not bad. Vegas could possibly sell those back to the farmer for seed. It's not a bad idea. Yeah. I think this could buy a period of silence. Yeah, absolutely. Not a problem. Yeah.
And how long is this period?
Well, I mean, the period is could be as small as a dot at the end of a sentence. Could be 5 to 7 days. All depends. Maybe longer.
Well, maybe this could make it a little longer. And she pulls a knife and holds it to his throat.
Okay. Whoa, hey. I mean, now look. If you're looking to trade blades, on the other hand, that's certainly a lot better than a few shrooms.
It's more that I've heard that two people can't keep a secret.
No, that's not true. Two people can keep a secret. It all depends on what they keep it in. Tell you what, how about those shrooms and that nice shiny little blade of yours? And Vegas can keep a secret for as long as it's valuable. I mean, think of it. If a secret's no longer valuable, who cares if somebody else gets it?
Okay, dropping out of the RP for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would this count as paying for protection?
Ooh.
Because
It
she's
might.
giving you something to protect the secret.
Yeah, it easily could. I could definitely see that being the case. Oh man. Yeah, I feel like there's either way there's a definite possibility for an oath getting broken.
Yeah, right here. Immediately
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
I mean, the other alternative is I have this knife at your throat.
Yeah.
There's no one around to see this, presumably. Would you mind if that happened? I'm sorry that this is happening so quick, but would you mind if that happened?
If what? If what happened? If
she
Vegas
just
got
killed
hurt?
you.
If Livia
Oh,
punctuates your life sentence.
Oh, well.
I should point out this is a game where there's a lot of conflict between the characters, and death is certainly on the table. But we're not going to do anything to you if you don't agree.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd like to think that Vegas lasts a little bit longer than, halfway through episode 1. I like the character already, On the other hand, Vegas offers deals. A lot of times he's bluffing. So one may bleed before one dies, and one may capitulate before one dies. So it may not be necessary to kill the character right away. Maybe if you just kind of pressed the blade a little, kind of put some emphasis on the seriousness of the. At which point, Vegas might be a little more amenable to, just the shrooms.
And at that point, it's really more of a threat, so I don't feel like she would be paying. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I could work with that. Yeah. Okay, back into character then. She will press the knife to your throat a little bit harder, just drawing a hint of blood.
Hey, okay. Vegas is reasonable. Vegas is good. This is tell you what. We'll take the shrooms, and you and I have a secret.
And you and I have a secret. And if I see you out here again, this knife goes a little bit deeper.
All right, hey, not a problem. Vegas doesn't necessarily need to be out here anymore. It's a cave. It's like any other cave. There's nothing to see here, right?
Nope, nothing to see.
Yeah, that's what Vegas thinks. Vegas, hey.
She's just gonna take you away from the wall and shove you away. Doesn't care if you hit the floor or not.
Nice.
Sounds good to me.
I think, and that answers the question. So I think that'll be the scene. So this is interesting because now we get to find out if Vegas is going to break their oath or not. But at some point, we'll give it a little more time, I think, because we'll see because Vegas now has a profitable secret, and it's a question of whether that secret's going to be kept or not. And I feel, I kind of leave it up to you, Antistud, as to whether or not you think that broke Livia's oath or not. I feel like it was at first protection, but now, since you traded threats, then that's not necessarily...
Yeah, it came pretty close, but at this point, it was really more of a threat and almost a bribe.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell anyone, and if I see you again, I'm not gonna feel bad about killing you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't even really see a bribe being in there. I know that she offered the shrooms and he took them. But seeing as how she was threatening his life and pretty much made it very clear that she could end him right then and there, I'm thinking the shrooms are actually almost more kind of like less of a bribe and more kind of like a statement, because she didn't have to let him leave, much less leave with anything.
Yeah.
True.
So I don't even really see it as being a bribe.
It's a power move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very good. I like this. Okay. So play then passes to... so no oath's broken yet. Play passes to Alyssa, and you may frame... I'm using the word frame a lot because I like the word frame. But you may ask a question. involving someone's character, probably, for whatever sort of scene you want to see, and we shall make it happen, like puppets. No. And again, like I said, like I did, if you need to ask more questions to find out more about the characters first, that's totally fine. Yeah, generally the only restriction is it's better if you're the guide for it not to have the scene not to have one of your characters in it.
Yeah.
It can be done if it's unavoidable, but yeah.
Well, I heard something about possibly some mushrooms going missing from one of the farms.
No, where'd you hear that?
I don't know, I can't imagine.
You know, rumors. Look, it didn't happen on Watson's watch.
That's right.
That's all I gotta say. So I'm wondering, how Fisher is gonna make up for that deficit to make sure that all these innocent people don't go hungry.
Ooh.
Well, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Cool.
Repercussions for an action I just threw in there for flavor.
And now
Say
this-
what?
Yeah.
I basically just threw in that little left dimension for flavor.
Oh. Yeah.
I didn't really think about it, but now it's important. Damn it.
And I suppose I guess it's probably Everett Kidd that's maybe looking for this answer.
For the what's going to happen? Yeah. Kid can be in the scene. That's fine. Kid is the what I decided to name the judge advocate. And Kid would definitely be looking for this answer. Okay. So, where does Fisher work?
Well, Fisher got his name because he refused to give his name when he originally showed up on the planet, and the records of his identity were lost. But Fisher's really good at fishing. So, initially, in the early days of the colony, Fisher maintained certain little hatcheries to, for initial fishes. But he would also occasionally leave and go out in order to fish. So a lot of times he can actually be found sort of at the edge of the colony. There's a section of ice that juts out, and for all intents and purposes, it serves as like a pier. And Fisher can usually be found there, walking back and forth along the length of the pier. Sometimes when he's checking nets or checking, traps. Otherwise, he's usually at the end of the pier where he's got several rods out and he's just fishing.
Question just for a little bit of world building and maybe fleshing out your character a little bit more. We already discussed that the biology of this planet was incredibly dangerous. Would that include the fish?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason why the traps and the nets are there, is it's not just to catch food, but it's also to catch predators. So what I can imagine is that perhaps this pier, for want of a better term, I keep wanting to say ice floe, but if I remember correctly, a floe is actually a separate piece floating as opposed to connected to any kind of landmass. But I can imagine that the windward side of this pier, because if I remember correctly, currents usually travel with the wind. So I'm gonna say that towards the windward side, there's almost a wall built up. A little bit of it is actual ice. Some of it has been reinforced. There's part of it is sloped, and along that slope there are various harpoons and spears. Occasionally one or two of the Marines may walk out in order to go ahead and just check and make sure that everything is still going.
So I think that as the scene opens, and we're all out sort of in our winter gear, our eternal winter gear, and I think that that Judge Advocate Kid comes comes up from one of the tunnels, flanked by two Marines. And essentially just wearing the big sort of parka type, the big parka of office, and we'll
one of those.
Sort of head toward the
big parka of office. Getting one of those.
Sort of heads toward Fisher as he's working.
And I think, like, for a moment, Fisher's going to take notice of their approach, and then he's just going to go back to what he's doing. I think at this point, Fisher's probably tugging on some of the lines, checking the traps, just trying to get a feel to see if anything is caught, make sure that, everything is just the way it should be.
Yeah. I think Kid is like average height, actually very, very plain looking, very, very incredibly average looking individual. Would vanish in a crowd were he not important.
Set parka of office.
And so basically we'll sort of steps forward to sort of comes up behind where you're working. And we'll ask, have you caught anything?
Fisher turns around, looks at him. Hello, Captain Kidd. Of course I've caught something. I'm a fisher. We've got a few of the traps that are showing a bit of weight. Pole or two over there. Kind of bending a little. Moment or two, I'll go over and I'll pull it out.
Well, that's good. That is good. Because I take it you have heard about the deficiency. Have you?
There's a lot of things that we're deficient in. Perhaps you're concerned about a specific deficiency?
Oh, quite. It seems that there was. It seems that there has been a decrease, a very specific decrease in production, shrinkage, if you will, of our inventory of what stockpile we have. of our fungus. This should be, of course, a concern to you as one of our sole providers of alternative goods for consumption, yes?
Nah. Look around you, mate. It's just snow. There's no fungus among us.
Perhaps I should make myself a bit more clear. There's not... We know there's not enough food, but now there is even less. And that is making our constituents quite grumpy, and I do not like it when our constituents are grumpy. I think that this is a deficiency that you can aid us in somewhat making up. As you have stated, the fish seem to be biting.
Meh. Almost bit me. Tell me, Captain Kidd, have you tried going to Vegas? I hear you can buy all kinds of things there. You might even be able to buy some less grumpiness.
Around Vegas you can hear all manner of things. Any and just simply throw a dart and try to decide which one is true. No. You, on the other hand, have the unfortunate quality of being reliable. And that is something we
have to do something about that.
Deeply need right now.
Well, look, Mr. Kidd, all I've got to offer you is a couple of fins.
It is a start. Here, and we shall then look at your inventory, and hopefully we shall be able to see what can be done about your production and assisting making up the deficiency. As, well, you've a few times in this conversation called me by the title of one of my ancestors. I should sincerely hope it shall not become necessary for me to behave as he did, and consider that there might be some intentional holding back of product, of food. For I would, as he would, have to consider it an act of piracy.
Well, now, those are serious charges.
Quite. How good
Don't
it is
you
then
worry.
that...
Don't you worry, Mr. Kidd. Old Fisher will be at his post.
That is what
Day
I am
in,
glad to hear.
day out, as always. Now, if you don't mind, I've something to catch other than a cold.
Oh, indeed. Well, these, and he sort of nods and says, very good, I'm glad we understand each other. These Marines shall be staying on site and assisting you, as you have become our priority.
Oh, good. The fish have been looking for someone of their intelligence to talk to.
I should like to hear that conversation. But, sadly, no time. Very good. Happy fishing. Turns around and walks off.
I think he looks at the two Marines for a moment or two, and he goes, "You lose a fin, and I'll gain some bait." And then he goes back to what he's doing, you know.
Did that actually answer the question? I'm sorry. I was thinking. Are we
I don't remember what the question was.
Yeah. Alyssa, what was the question? Or just what happens, or...
How are we going to make up for the food deficit?
Okay, yeah. I think we kind of answered that.
Yeah, he's gonna get more fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No good deed goes unpunished,
That's
man.
right.
Good job on getting those fish. Could you get more?
Yes.
That's not a question. That's an order.
It depends on whether or not Marines fuck up.
That's right. Oh, that's awesome. He's not breaking the law, so I can punish him. All right.
Perfect.
So, Rock, it is your turn as guide. You get to ask a question and sort of help set up a scene.
All right. And that's going to be that could be a tough one. Let's go with all right, so Alyssa, are you up for a challenge for Lee?
Sure.
Okay. So my first question for you, and this will be to kind of frame the scene. I'm trying to think of who to pull in on this one. I'm really thinking that this would be a good question for the judge advocate.
Sure.
Or
scenes also can be a few. You can also frame scenes a few different ways. You can even have simple scenes with just like one character or no characters if need be, depending on how you want to figure things out. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well let's go ahead and let's start off with this question, and then we can figure out who else, if necessary, we can bring into it. So the question is going to be, what did Lee see some other Marines doing that they should not have been doing? And is there a chance that it could lead to some individuals being unjustly I would assume that our colony has some semblance of a brig, if anything, as a temporary measure.
Oh yeah.
So what did Lee see some of her fellow Marines doing, and is there a chance that it could result in some members of the colony being unjustly imprisoned?
There are a few different ways to do this. We could, Alyssa, you could totally just do this as almost a soliloquy if you wanted to, or just an individual thing, or just describing them seeing something, or if you want, you can pull more people in. We can set it up however you want.
Okay. What if it's she thinks she saw something, she's not sure. Obviously, food is scarce for everybody. And maybe she saw somebody skimming a little bit off of the harvest.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does it, don't they? The Dimba Damba gets a cut. the the boss gets cut. If you work, you're supposed to get your share, but people's rations are getting cut all the time. You've got families to look out for. None of us signed up for this. Do I say something? I can't say something. I can't say anything. We're all in over our heads. None of us signed up for this. This isn't what we expected or planned for. We're all just trying to survive. I won't rat out my mates.
May I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Who did Lee see the Marines taking the food from? Was it someone particularly vulnerable?
That's an excellent question.
Wait, here's one. Jim? Who's asking that question?
Well, right now I'm just.
Because you are the judge advocate.
We could totally.
and Alyssa rather expertly provided that from the thought point of Lee.
So
if the advocate is asking who she saw,
we could do that. Do we want to roll it into a scene to sort of demonstrate whether Lee's going to rat out her mates or not? Her mates or not? What? I'm sorry. What are Lee's pronouns?
Her, she, her.
She, her. Okay. All right. I should just put them up here. Do we want to do that? Do we want to do a scene with that? See what happens.
Why not?
All right. Okay. I think that you're having this conversation with with yourself, but then you realize you sort of get the buzzer that is this notification that the JAG that wants to that the judge advocate wants to see you.
All right. Deep breath. Count to 10. Poker face. Got to report for duty.
I think the judge advocate is one of the few people who still uses an office. It's like a. It's not a big room, but it's essentially you've got it. But it's a little bit bigger than one might have. It's you've got sort of desk, and there's some kind of there's a storage unit that it's like directly adjacent to it. That's part of the room. I imagine this office has all kinds of like hidey holes and stuff. It's it's underground, it's like there's a safe and all manner of crap just sort of squirreled around different places in the office.
If you don't mind me throwing in an idea, I kind of like the idea of having nostalgic things, like things to remind him of a better time when it wasn't so chaotic and he had a little more actual power.
Yeah. Absolutely. So probably like the colony flag is in here, and actual picture of Like pictures of his family who are not here with him.
Of course.
Things of that nature, and sort of, few early artifacts from the colony back when it looked like it was gonna work. And so, we basically have, if you kind of ring the bell or whatever, he'll sort of put on the intercom. Come.
And I'll go inside.
So you see, he's working on a tablet right now. What is That's an excellent question. What rank of Marine is Watson?
Let's say Sergeant.
Sergeant. Good. All right. Sergeant Watson, thank you for coming. I have some questions for you. I take it you are aware of the recent deficiencies, yes?
Yes, sir.
Good. That's very good. It's important that we're able to make that up, and there is certain progress being made toward that, hopefully, but it is something we cannot abide. Not truly, I think. Tell me, you're in a position, having some degree of influence with both the troops and even some of the convicts. They like you, Watson. That's what I hear, at least. And it seems to me that you would be in a good position to be able to make determinations, to be able to have perhaps noted when some of what we had vanished into the ether, as it were. No, I understand people do all they can to get by, but someone in a position such as yours could do a bit better for themselves were they to pass along the information of people who were not, in fact, pulling their weight. Perhaps stealing. Now, of course, my first thought is that this could be easily it could easily be one of the convicts, perhaps. But, what if it isn't? This thought assails me. It does disturb me somewhat. At what few bastions of order we have, helped along by, and kept in shape by and in order by a sergeant as learned and well versed as Watson. That could be a tragedy if that were to be allowed to crumble. So I just simply need to ask: have you seen anything?
At this point, sir, anything I were to say would be speculation.
Ah, well then, speculate.
With all due respect, sir, I would prefer and not to presume or speak for you, but I feel it would be best if I were able to present you with solid evidence rather than rumors. Am I correct, sir?
Well, on the one hand, that is the letter of the way things work. Yes, you're very good at that, Watson. My other concern, however, is have we the time? People are starving to death. You're aware of this. I'm quite certain you're out there every day.
Yes,
You must
sir.
have seen something. But, very well, you perhaps will need to come up with something more specific. I do understand this office can be understanding, perhaps even at times lenient to those who perhaps simply doing what they can, what they must. Even Marines, perhaps I've heard, have sometimes liberally used their rightful means of confiscation. Sometimes that happens. Wouldn't be too treacherous. You can tell me if you've seen that, you know.
I understand, sir.
2 days, Watson. We have 2 days. Bring me something. Bring me someone. A head is going to roll. I would dearly hope it's not someone the colony likes.
Yes, sir.
I think that's the scene. Cool. Well, since we started a little bit late, I think we will have time perhaps for one more scene, if that's all right with folks.
Yeah, I'm fine.
If we're good.
I'm good with that. Yep.
And so, Antistud, it's your turn as the guide. Ask us questions.
I know you and Alyssa just did a scene together, but and I'm sorry. I really am sorry, Rock. But I'm interested in seeing. We've seen the government side of this, but I'm kind of interested in seeing the convict side of things right now. So, Dimber Damber.
Yeah.
You're basically in charge of this colony, and it's recently come to your attention that someone or some group of people has been stealing from the mushroom farms. What are you gonna do about that?
That's an excellent question. Is there are there any side questions or additional people you want to fork in here, or shall we organically find it?
I mean, ideally, I was kind of hoping for the abbot, but honestly, the Captain Sharp would probably work better, and we don't have one. But
we can have one as an NPC if need be. We can bring one up and name them. But I mean, I can think of a reason for Alice to talk to the abbot about this. Just simply because, so I can see a reason for Alice to talk to the abbot. I can also see a reason for Alice to talk to Vegas about this. So, I think if I may, I'd like to do a scene with all 3 of them.
Sure. Are you talking to both of them at once or separately?
I think it's first just Alice and the abbot, and then they're going to bring in Vegas.
Okay.
Let's see. Alice, I will never steal nor let a theft go unpunished. I haven't really decided much about Alice's personality, but I kind of figuring he has to be somebody who's like tough enough to wrench this whole thing around and is trying to feed the colony. So Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, I think that the Dimber Damber is probably quartered somewhere where there's I think there's like something that was set up as kind of a processing sort of trading house that's not far from the greenhouse. And so folks can, and initially it was supposed to be like folks would come there and we're going to back when they thought they were going to be able to have a working sort of marketplace, and it was kind of a place where they were going to have just a common building where folks were supposed to have auctions or trade goods, things like that. A community center, as it were.
Okay.
And I think that's actually where the Dimber Damber often works out of. So I think Ellis is a very, very tall individual who has a number of scars, and I guess we're just gonna go with this. And is basically is working out of there's a it's kind of see, it looks kind of like almost a sort of room where he sort of sits up. There's like sort of a bench with a sort of not like a low. I'm talking about a high bench where there's sort of a gavel on it, sort of where the auctioneer would work from, or other folks would sort of oversee stuff. And he kind of stands behind that when he's working, and he's going to send for he's going to send for Jones.
All right. So, Remy Jones is, I'm thinking, like, nobody's really, like, well-fed anymore, but for whatever semblance of well-fed you can be around here. I mean, Remy is pretty high on the food chain, such as it is. They are, the clothes are probably nice, but obviously repeatedly mended because we don't have a lot of luxury. But they deal in indulgences. You buy your indulgences with the only form of currency that matters in a place like this: food or information.
Yeah. All right. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you see, as you're leaving, you see the Captain Sharp passing you on the way out. And Haig is sort of looks over and he's, Remy, you doing it? Remy, how's business?
Could be better.
Don't I hear that? So, some folks are. So, I'll get right down to it. You've. I assume that your trade's been affected by this. It looks like someone's been taking some of the mushrooms. Yeah.
Yep. Seems that way.
Has anyone come in to try and trade them with you? Stuff they shouldn't have?
Not yet.
I think you should. I think maybe keep an eye out for that. I've got
Whoever they are, they're smart enough to sit on this one. Nobody's.
And see, that's the
Yet.
well, I see, and that should narrow it down, right? Because how many people in this colony are smart? We gotta find some things out. You've got how many people you got working with you right now, or roughly?
Well, I can think of one person for sure. If you want to buy information,
Yeah.
you go to Vegas.
Yeah. I had them send for him, and it's apparently he's out in the boonies somewhere, but he's should be coming in soon. But apparently they're out in the boonies somewhere, but they should be coming in soon. The thing is that we got to put a plan together here. Try to gather what we can. If any of your people see or hear anything, well, I'd say I'm just giving you carte blanche here. Do what you have to. You catch someone, it's got to stop immediately. So that means you got to end somebody, end them. You understand?
I understand.
Can't have one person getting away with all the goods, and then they live and the rest of the colony dies. Not going to happen on my watch. So at this point, I think. We start to we start to hear Vegas outside.
Is Vegas? You're muted.
Hey, come on. Now, relax, boys, relax. I know where the boss's office is. I've been here a few times. He kind of opens up the doors. He comes walking in, and he's gonna initially look at the abbot, and then he's going to turn to the Dimber. Hey, boss, and hey, boss, hey.
How many times have they met?
I think they've probably. I feel like Alice kind of knows Vegas. I think they've met enough times that there's like a little bit of familiarity. But it's one of those things where they probably haven't done a lot of official business with each other as of yet. And this is perhaps the first time this is happening, where he's really asking something of him.
Yeah, I don't think that there's actually. I don't think it's necessarily that so much a case of works for like when he's calling him boss. It's not like boss as in like, hey, this is my employer. It's more kind of like acknowledgement that we're talking to the top two people of the food chain.
Yeah.
So whether it's direct employment or not, they're still in charge. They're still the boss.
Vegas, if we can proceed with a slightly little bit less simpering, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. No, not a problem, boss. I totally understand. Hey, you can't come to Vegas. Vegas comes to you.
With an escort, it seems, yes. Now listen, I don't know where you've been where you've been hiding out recently, but we've got an all hands on deck situation. Okay.
Hey! If you need extra hands, I'm sure I can go ahead and find some for you. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's what I want
left
you
or
for.
right?
You find things. You find people.
Yeah. Vegas. I mean, it's not like Vegas necessarily goes looking for trouble. You know, trouble sort of finds its way to Vegas.
And above all else, well, yeah, I heard that. But yeah, some folks don't look for trouble, but some stumble around it really often. Listen.
Well, you know, it's so big.
Well, that's gonna come in handy. All right. But I need to.
All this
I
talk
need some
about hands,
information.
boss, I gotta ask you, are we looking for left hands or right hands? Or both?
Depends. Can you eat them?
I'm not sure, with a little bit of seasoning, you know.
Look, we're not going there yet, but we might. Listen.
Yeah.
Someone is taking. Is regularly has been skimming off the shrooms a lot more than usual. You know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You don't say.
So, I need someone who can get into places and find things out to get around and find out who's doing it.
Vegas might know some people. Vegas might know some people indeed. No, not necessarily names per se, but Vegas may have seen one or two individuals.
Have you seen something?
Oh, well, Vegas gets around. Vegas sees a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got information that might help things here, then that will help you as well. You're aware of that.
Oh, well, I mean, if we're talking commerce, absolutely. Vegas loves talking about commerce, especially, you know, hey, if you need, hey, you know, it's like the old saying goes, Vegas has who's if you've got coin.
Your hooves aside. What I'm interested in right now is just if you know anything that'll help us figure out who the hell is taking the mushrooms. What you gotta do for them.
It's possible, yes. Vegas might have the key to that mystery. You know, and I mean, it's normally the kind of thing that people offer something in trade for. And of course, you're the boss, so, you know, employer discount and everything like that, you know.
I'm trying to imagine what the primary currency would be. At this point, I think, you know, aside from it's got to be either food or favors.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So.
We'll put it this way.
Right. No, I delegate. So I just sort of turned to and look at the abbot. Remy, we got anything that might be of interest to someone of Mr. Vegas's appetites that we could perhaps offer in payment?
Hypothetically speaking, if Mr. Vegas has something that would be of use to us, then we might have something that might be of use to our good friend Vegas. That depends how much of that something finds its way back to Vegas depends on how good their information is. but we just might be able to work something out.
Oh yeah. See. Oh, that's why I love working with you, boss. You certainly understand commerce. You love trade, don't you? Almost as much as I do. Well, look. So here's the deal. Vegas occasionally goes out for a walk, and it's possible Vegas may have encountered somebody who gave Vegas some mushrooms in exchange for not saying a few things. And it's possible that individual may have mentioned that those mushrooms came from a farm. Possibly the colony's farm. Hey.
And does this somebody have a name that might materialize at some point during this conversation?
Oh. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they have a name, boss. Everybody has a name. I mean, come on. Who doesn't have a name? Except maybe that Fisher guy. I mean, everybody calls him Fisher because nobody knows what his real name is. Supposedly, he's forgotten. But yeah, everybody's got a name. I'm sure that if I'm sure that we could be able to go ahead and scrounge up a name. Is there You'd probably like to have the name of that individual that Vegas spoke with, I'm assuming.
Probably, yes.
And I'm assuming you want to know what's in it for Vegas.
Well, yeah, of course, naturally. Oh, Vegas is always interested in, what he may be able to expect or what they may not be able to expect.
And I think that, and I don't know where this is going exactly, but I think Haig will just sort of gesture to Remy to indicate that Remy should put something on the table. I do not know if this would be a physical item that represents some kind of payment, or something similar, or just something symbolic of a thing, a service that
Okay.
might be, yeah.
Okay. So Remy will reach into an inside vest pocket and take out some kind of flask that holds some kind of fermented mushroom tea beverage. It's probably not great, but it's what we've got. And it's, one of the few indulgences that we have left to us in a place like this.
Oh. Is that Portobello whiskey?
It might be.
Oh. Oh, well.
So you can see we're serious about this.
Yeah.
We've a thing to offer. Perhaps you've got a name to offer.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. As it seems, now Vegas doesn't quite remember the young lady's name, first name, that is, but as Vegas seems to recall, I believe that she is related to that Van Sucro kid, the chap that was, he was freed. The authority decided they were done with him for a while.
Yeah.
I seem to recall it was his sister. What was her name? Like a body part, liver or something.
I think the name you're looking for is Olivia.
That's it. That's who Vegas was talking to.
And I think
Vegas saw Olivia. Olivia said that she didn't want Vegas talking about what he saw her doing. Vegas said, silence is a commodity. And she decided to go ahead and buy it.
Right. And I just sort of give Remy a significant look, and I just sort of say, all right. And he just sort of will nod. We'll sort of nod to Remy to hand off the sample.
All right. We'll slide it over.
Vegas goes ahead, grabs it real quick, opens it, takes a sniff.
And I'm just going to reach forward, and as you're picking it up and you're sort of doing that, I will sort of lean forward and he puts his meaty hand on yours, and we'll say, now, there's a possibility of more for you if you're able to find out anything else about this theft. But don't go trying to turn this into more than it is, you understand?
Oh, no, boss, no, boss, of course not. Every good working relationship is built off of trust.
Right, exactly.
Right, yeah, not a problem.
If you've got the tiniest scintilla of discretion about you, I'd recommend you use it when you're looking into this.
Hey. Modesty, sincerity, and acceptability. All wonderful words when coin is involved. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, contemplate further words outside if you don't mind. We're done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think I'll go ahead and contemplate sobriety and how fleeting it is.
Fair enough. And kind of as you sort of head out, and Haig will sort of lean back and just turn to Remy and just sort of shaking his head and says, Livia von goddamn Sucro is going to be a hell of a lot more complicated than we thought. And I think that's the scene. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, you definitely did something about it. I just love the utter disdain you had for Vegas the entire time. It was just you're like, oh god, I have to deal with this guy again.
These things will happen. Well, I think we're at about. We're going to go ahead and pause here, as I'm preparing for next time. So we are at the end here of this episode. I think this is a great start. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this whole thing develops. So we're going to go around and basically say what we thought of this episode and where folks can find us. We're going to go the reverse order of how we started once again. And so we will begin with Anti-Stud.
Hey, I'm Annie Stud. You can find me at Sir Andy Stud on Twitter. I don't really do anything there, but yeah, if you want to follow, sure. There's not really too much that I do online these days. So I play some D&D with friends, but that isn't streamed. But for the next couple weeks, you can find me here.
Yay! Did you have any final thoughts about the episode?
I think I may have to make a new character soon, but we'll see. I mean, Remy, if Remy's gonna kill someone, that's breaking their oath. So I think I'm in the clear for a little bit.
This is gonna be really interesting. Awesome. Well, and now let's move on to Rock.
Hey, Rock007 on Twitter, TVM Rock here on Twitch. Right now, for the foreseeable future, at least for the next couple of weeks, I'll be here. After that, it's possible I may be spinning up something of my own. I'll give you a hint. It's related to what I mentioned as being my favorite sci-fi thing. So,
nice.
yeah, keep an eye out for that. Other than that, I gotta say, I really enjoyed the collaborative world building as far as everybody kind of having input and just kind of the whole thing coming together based off of what everybody was thinking. I really liked how Alyssa did the initial thought process for Lee, as far as just kind of going there and trying to justify the actions of her squad, their fellow Marines, followed up by her trying to dodge the questions of the judge advocate, and I also like how the initial opening scene with Livia. I thought that was a great start. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this develops. I'm looking forward to seeing as to whether or not Lee ends up having to sell out her squad, or how far she's willing to go to protect their secret. And I'm really interested in seeing how things go with Livia, as far as do they go after her, or just what happens with her communicating with the savages.
Excellent.
So I think that could be a potential plot hook that could be really interesting to see.
Well, it's going to be awesome to check that out, definitely. I definitely want to see what happens with that. And let us finally move on to Alyssa.
Wow. Tensions are definitely rising. So once again, you can find me at Origami Shuriken on Twitter. I regularly post artwork and kind of play-by-plays of my home games, craft projects, unrelated to tabletop gaming. But you can find me this coming Sunday bright and early at 10 a.m. Eastern for Little Red Dots Sunday Fun Day. There should be links on my Twitter soon. And and then next week, same time, same channel.
Yes, excellent. Cool. I just have to say for myself, I thought I loved what all of you did with the characters. I think we've hit the ground running here. I liked every scene. Every scene we did today was awesome. And so I'm going to be very keen to see how this develops. We've already got high drama from the outset, so I think this is going to be very cool to see how this develops. But once again, I'm Jim Ryan. You can find me at OtherDoc on Twitch and Twitter. My website is jimyesthatjim.com, where you can find my Geek Observation podcast and links to my various other podcasts, audio dramas, writings, and such. I've got links down below to my website, Twitter, YouTube channel, and the most recent short story that I've released. On Friday afternoons, Saturday and Sunday mornings here on this channel, I play video games. Tomorrow night, Friday night, I will be over on Off the Table, playing in the third season of their Urban Shadows campaign, Sanguahona the Claiming, and this takes place in the 1890s. They've gone back and look at the history of it, and I'm playing a very dastardly character. It is delightful. Complete 180 from where I started in that campaign. But then, and that is at off_the_table here on Twitch. On Sunday, on Sundays we do one-shots here on this channel. We will have start hopefully our couple of one-shots of a game called 3 Days Until Retirement, which is a hysterically just sort of gonzo game about cops on the edge, basically. Cops have 3 days till they retire and are trying to bring in some criminals so that they can get booted up a rank before they retire and actually get a decent pension. So I fully expect mayhem to result once we get all that together. So that is coming up with any luck on Sunday, early evening. Then on Monday, I'm going to be over on Katie's channel, Katieface, that's Katyfaise, that afternoon, running a campaign of Inspectors, which is paranormal comedy. It is delightful thus far. Last time, they dealt with some wax golems at a crayon factory. And, who knows what's going to happen next? I certainly don't. So it's going to be very cool. Then, once again, 1 week from today, Thursday evening, more of this. We'll have the next episode of Durance, and I cannot freaking wait. So, folks, if anyone's interested in sign-ups, those are still going on for 3 days until retirement, for we can still fit some people in. Definitely, if there's any interest for this Sunday or the Sunday following, we've got 2 games of that, so just click on the sign-up link. Also, sign-ups are still running for Genesis Undone, which will be at the end of the month, the one-shot that I'm going to be running a game I've designed about, that I'm still sort of working out some of the kinks, but it's basically a story game about tragedy at the dawn of civilization. Uses tarot. Yes, very much of that. And as always, beginners are welcome. So, when we hit the end card, we don't have a lot of folks, so I'm going to go ahead and do a raid anyway. I'm going to go ahead and, if folks are interested in hanging on, I'm going to send a raid over to Off the Table, because that Sanguahuna Urban Shadows campaign I mentioned is in 2 slices. We're playing the bad guys, but tonight we have the good guys are there. That's the high noon side of things. We're the midnight side of things. They're high noon. So feel free if you would like to hang on and just say hi to them. If you want to kind of check out what that campaign is kind of about, they've still got like about half an hour to go. So we're going to head over there once we hit the end card. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, folks. Take care, and I will see you next week. Farewell.